I'm going to tell you guys a story. It all starts with Molly and his buddies, whose names were Chris and Johnny. They were strolling the streets of downtown Los Angeles, California. It was a nice sunny day with clear blue skies, nicely green trees, birds chirping, and a nicely blue shaded mountain that was called Mount San Antonio. We should climb that mountain over there. Mount San Antonio, Molly proposed. Without hesitation, Chris and Johnny agreed, and they went there. It was around sunset when they made it to Mount San Antonio. They climbed all the way up with their climbing skills. Feeling worn out after climbing, they rested up there for a little while after they reached the top of the mountain, viewing the scenery of Los Angeles with the setting sun behind it. However, a falcon with a scar on his left eye randomly appears out of nowhere, circling over them from above. Molly and the others were unaware of this until they heard a sudden, loud cat noise. They looked around, saw nothing, but when they looked up, there was the falcon. Initially, they weren't worried about it, but as the falcon continues hovering over them, they start becoming concerned. In hopes that they wouldn't startle it, they backed away slowly, attempting to climb back down the mountain. A few moments later, it soared down in an attempt to attack them, targeting Molly first. He dodged the falcon successfully, but in turn almost loses his grip on a mountain ledge. Molly, Chris, and Johnny climbed down as fast as they could while facing the angry falcon, dodging each attack from it. They eventually made it back to solid ground and walked back to Los Angeles. But to their dismay, a whole group of falcons gathered around the scar-eyed one, signifying that that's the leader for which Molly and the others figured out. There were 7 of them now. Like they did before, they backed away slowly, but they soared down in groups. Molly and Chris and Johnny jumped into nearby bushes for safety. As soon as they did, the falcons halted their attack and waited for them to emerge from the bushes to continue their attack. Molly and the others tried to devise a plan, which Johnny did. There's ray guns over there at that store near that building over there. I'm gonna go there, buy all 3 for us to combat against each and every last falcon, Johnny said. Molly and Chris nodded. Alright, but hurry! We can't stay in these bushes forever! Johnny emerged out of the bushes, running as fast as he could to the store with ray guns. Now we wait, said Chris. The falcons saw this and immediately flew after him. They were gaining on him, but he never gave up. He just kept running, and he eventually made it to the store. He bought 3 ray guns for just $5 each, paid the cashier, and was out of there. Johnny noticed the falcons waiting for him outside, so he needed to go slowly out the door and run when the time was just right. So the time was just right, and he made a run for it. The falcons flew after him. He hurried as fast as he could to Molly and Chris that were still hiding in the bushes. Johnny, you're back, shouted Molly and Chris in unison. Johnny quickly handed Molly and Chris the ray guns. Molly aimed at one of the falcons, managed to get a clean shot. The falcon plummeted to the ground unconscious. This made the other falcons furious and started flying towards Molly, Chris, and Johnny. This prompted them to fire at them relentlessly until they were blasted out of the sky. They successfully did so. However, there were 2 left, the leader falcon and the other one that sneakily flew behind them while they were unaware of this. The falcon used its sharp talons to claw at Molly's leg, so he couldn't escape. Ah! Yelled Molly. Molly! Yelled Chris and Johnny. As Molly fell to the ground, Chris and Johnny looked behind them, and there was the falcon. The leader falcon used their distraction as an advantage for it to unleash its attack. Molly noticed this, so he aimed at the leader and fired at it. The leader falcon plummeted to the ground, not unconscious, but instead writhing in pain, as it affected it more differently than the other falcons. Although Molly's leg was wounded, he managed to stand up, but could only walk with a limp. Chris and Johnny were clawed in the face and chest, but were still able to both aim and fire at the other falcon. Successfully gets the hit, with the Falcon plunging to the ground unconscious, with the leader Falcon the only one remaining awake. The leader was able to flap its wings despite being shot by Molly's ray gun. "Okay, guys, let's gather together," commanded Molly. Molly, Chris, and Johnny did so in a group as the leader was flying straight at them. They put their ray guns together, using up the last of their lasers to charge up a large energy beam. And as the leader Falcon was getting closer and closer, they fired their large energy beam right at the leader Falcon and blasted it right out of the sky. The leader Falcon hit the ground head first, on his back, and emitted a weakened chirp. As Molly, who's still walking with a limp, Chris and Johnny were walking towards the leader Falcon, Chris yelled, "All right!" "It was tough, but we managed to pull it off," Johnny said. "Let's see if the leader Falcon is really unconscious," said Molly. They hovered over the leader Falcon, testing to see if it's alive or not. Molly poked at it, and it opened its eyes, and then they all three pointed the ray guns at it. "Wait," groans the leader Falcon. Much to their surprise, the leader Falcon can talk. "It talks?" asked Molly, with Chris and John with a confused look on their face. "Yes, I can talk," said the leader Falcon. "I'm gonna be honest. I never thought you boys had it in ya, but y'all put up a great fight. Now I'll accept my defeat like a normal person." Molly, Chris, and Johnny all lifted one eyebrow at the leader Falcon. Well, not person, but a Falcon. "Well, you guys know what I mean," said the leader Falcon. Molly, Chris, and Johnny nodded at the leader Falcon. The leader Falcon nodded back, then blacked out, never to regain consciousness. As they looked at all the Falcon's deceased bodies, they were approached by police officers. There were 3 of them. They asked, "What's going on here?" Molly replied, "We were battling very aggressive Falcons and we blasted them with ray guns bought from that store over there near that building." "Yeah, they clawed at us with their talons," added Chris. "Well, we had no choice. They wouldn't leave us alone, so we did what we had to do," added Johnny. The police officers looked at each other. "We understand. Come on, we're going to get you guys to the hospital for those scratches. We're going to treat them." The nurses at the hospital attended to their wounds, and after Molly and Chris and Johnny's wounds cleared up, they rested at the hospital for the night. The next day, they were discharged from the hospital. "Let's stroll through Los Angeles again," said Molly. "Let's do it!" yelled Chris. "I'm down for that," agreed Johnny. They strolled through the streets of downtown Los Angeles again, and they had a very good time. The end.